Thank you very much and good morning. I need to get my slide on screen. Let me just say, whilst that's happening, that what I'm hoping to do today is introduce you to lots of ideas, many of which you will know about already, and some of which will be picked up in workshops later on in the day. You may find them a little skewed in the sense that they represent some of the things that I'm doing. I'm not intending to make any particular party political points out of that, so I hope you'll accept that all of what I said can be generalised across the whole political spectrum. That's just my introduction. I'm a councillor in the Royal Borough of Kingston upon Thames, which is an outer London borough. We have 160,000 inhabitants, so it's small as London boroughs go, and that, to a certain extent, limits what we can actually achieve. Now, as elected representatives, the key to what we do and our electoral success is good communications. That must be at the heart of everything that we're doing. Lots of ways in which we communicate with our electorate as politicians. That's in a meeting, in a local hall. That's the kind of leaflets that all political parties put out to tell their residents what they're doing. And we engage in face-to-face communications with our residents here, people signing a petition. We have surgeries, and of course we have one-to-one contact at any time of the day. And there are online versions of all these things happening. Now, something I feel very strongly about is that we, as politicians, monitor very closely the activity of the other parties, of our political rivals. And we're very quick to report any breaches of the code of conduct of members. And I do think it's quite important to recognise it's not the job of local government officers to monitor legitimate political activity of elected representatives. And I think some local government officers are a little risk-averse about this, a bit worried about what their politicians get up to. You don't have to worry. It's up to us to monitor what we're doing in relation to the code. So, we all have, I'm sure, as many of you have, local political websites, branch websites. This is our local Conservative party, and that's our local Liberal Democrat one. I actually manage that website. I haven't put up a Labour one for Kingston. We have one Labour councillor, and he's the only councillor who refuses to use a computer. There's also the possibility of campaign websites, political campaign websites. Here's some councillors campaigning for a new hospital, and most political parties offer facilities and tools to enable us to set these up and get them going. And with the emphasis on single-issue politics nowadays, this is a very, very good way of being in touch and reaching members of your local electorate who you otherwise might not reach. There's the whole area of using blogs. Here's a selection of blogs. I'm going to talk a bit more about them later on. You'll discover I have one, which I will be talking about later. YouTube is an increasingly important place where we can communicate. You can generate far more traffic often to a YouTube site than to a normal website. And this is one where you can see a hand pointing, can't you? It's a councillor going down to a park where there's some issues and is actually holding his camera and pointing out and speaking about what the issues are. If you embed these videos then within your local party website or your personal blogs, they can reach a greater audience anyway. This is another councillor recording a speech he made at a conference. Facebook, we've already had a mention of social networking. You will find me on Facebook, by the way, and very welcome to come and ask to be my friend, very happy to do that. But I want to look at this particular very well-known example of the use of Facebook by the Member of Parliament Steve Webb, who, if you notice, when this was done, had 2,652 friends. I think it's more now, actually. I think I took this snapshot a few weeks ago. He has... And if you look at those friends, you'll find a very high proportion of them are in the 18 to 25 profile. It's an excellent way of communicating with and contacting students and young people in your electorate who are often the most difficult to contact by other means. Whoops, it's not... Oh, there we go. Another way, of course, of using Facebook and other social networking site is to set up groups. This is a campaign group around the Heathrow expansion, or objecting to it. We've also recently set up a Facebook group for my neighbourhood. And I haven't shown this here, but there are lots and lots of ways, I think, in which we're learning that this can be a very effective way of communicating with people in a space which is not dominated by the kind of top-down hierarchy that we were hearing earlier, but is very much a peer-to-peer kind of relationship. I now wanted to look, if I may, at some of the tools that are available for local government. But they're ones which I think, as elected representatives, we can encourage their use. We can be involved directly ourselves, we can monitor the usage of them, and we can use them as ways of receiving and understanding the concerns of our residents. Very simple tool, which all local authorities should have, which is on a council website, information about each of the councillors, including the committees they're on, their political party, where they represent, who the other councillors are. I've been around lots of councils with my work around e-democracy over the last few years and looked at lots of council websites, and you'd be amazed that I cannot find out from some council websites which party is in control. Now, how else do we get people excited about local politics unless they understand that? Who the councillors are, I sometimes can only find out if I'm a resident of that borough, but sometimes people outside want to know who the councillors are and want to contact them. And certainly not the level of detail that's here about membership. This seems to me a bedrock of local democracy, to have that sort of information generally available to the public. This is a tool for reporting. Very simple communications between residents and the council, but we as councillors need to be watching what's going on to understand where the hotspots are, what the issues are that are emerging around the services that the councils are providing. E-petitions, again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Kingston pioneered the use of online petitions as part of the National Project for Local E-Democracy, along with Bristol, and we developed the system which was initially started with Scotland and has since been taken up by the German Bundestag. And you'll be hearing Stephen Hilton later on in one of the workshops, and down in Bristol, this Ask Bristol, which he manages, brings together a whole series of e-democracy tools. Really worth looking at that. You can see the breadth of the tools that are available here and the way that they're integrated for citizens in Bristol.